Hello, stage managers. I am Matt Grenier. I'm a technical director, and I'm going to show you how to import PDF drawings and efficiently identify points for floor taping. And I'm going to show you how to do that using both AutoCAD and Vectorworks. So before we get started, just want to emphasize this is not a tutorial in how to use AutoCAD or Vectorworks for the first time. I'm kind of assuming that you have at least a little bit of familiarity with these programs, that you've opened them and done something with them before. You might be able to follow me even if you haven't, but I'm assuming that you have. I'm also not going to go over how to produce your own drawings like with coordinate points added. The purpose of this is to bring a drawing into AutoCAD, whether it's a PDF or an image file, and scale it, get it at 0, 0 on the origin, and then take points, determine coordinates efficiently so that you can then write them down on a printed drawing that you already have, or annotate them on a separate PDF, however you want to document them. But the idea is getting that information out efficiently, not sort of creating a nice drawing that has all of that information added to it. So before I go over to the CAD programs, let's take a look at the drawings that we're going to be working with here. So I have 3 different files we're going to look at. The first one is this PDF, which was created from AutoCAD. And then I have this PDF, which was created from Photoshop. And then I have an image file version of that same drawing. So it's the exact same thing. This is just a JPEG, whereas this is a PDF. Before I go further, I also want to just emphasize the difference between a vector-based image and a raster image. So a vector image, like this letter on the left, is an image that's created from mathematical equations. So all the lines in the image are equation-based, and if you change the scaling of that drawing or that object, the equations will just sort of recalculate, and you'll always have like nice sharp edges to that image. Whereas a raster image, like on the right here, is just a grid of pixels, and each of those pixels, has a different brightness and a different color. And when you scale that image, like make it really big, you're going to get soft edges on it. And that the important thing is that mathematical equation doesn't exist in the raster image. So and this is going to matter as we start pulling these files into the CAD programs, because we'll get slightly different results depending on whether the drawing is like a vector drawing or is created from like raster images. So okay. One thing I want to show before we go to AutoCAD with this drawing that I told you is from AutoCAD. One way I can tell is to look at the layers in the PDF. And all the layers in this PDF are like the layers that came from AutoCAD. So I can actually turn them on and off right in like Acrobat. So if I want to interact with the layers from AutoCAD, I can do that right here. If I look at this drawing that came from Photoshop, you can see that there are no layers in the PDF. So it can be hard to tell just looking at a drawing whether this is like image based, like it is a raster image, or whether it came from a CAD program and all of the information is vector based. So it's hard to tell. Okay, let's jump over to AutoCAD, and I'm going to start a new file. So I'm just going to go to New. I'm going to use their generic AutoCAD template, and I'm going to hit Open. And now the first thing I'm going to do, I just want you to be aware of how to do this. So I want to make sure that my coordinate system in AutoCAD is set to the world coordinate system, which is the global coordinate system. it's possible to create what are called user coordinate systems in AutoCAD, which basically like changes where the origin is, into like a custom location. So we don't want that. We want to just be in global world coordinates. So I'm going to type UCS, enter, and then it's going to ask me where I want to like put the coordinate system. And if I look down in the command line, it says world W. So I'm just going to type W and then enter. And that will just confirm that we are in the world coordinate system. So that should be the case if you start a new file, but I just want to make sure you know how to do that. So if something seems funky, like the origin just suddenly moved on you, try that UCSW. The next thing I'm going to do is set my units. So I'm going to type in the command units. And I want to make sure I set this to architectural format. And you can now determine like what precision you want for your coordinates as well. So if you don't want any fractional measurements in your coordinates, you could set this to 0. I'm going to leave it on 1/2 inch for right now and just say OK. You can always come back and change that later. Now I'm going to show you a couple ways of getting a PDF into AutoCAD. The first one I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to Insert, and then I'm going to go to PDF Import. You can also type the command _PDF import. Will achieve the same result. And I'm going to select the first drawing that I showed you, the one that originated in AutoCAD. I'm going to hit Open. It's going to show me there's only one page in this file, so it's just showing me page 1. I'm not going to change any of the settings on here, but you can see that it's going to try to import all of the vector geometry, the fill colors, the text, any raster images that are in here. It's going to try to bring all that in. You can also see that it will use the PDF layers. So if I keep that selected, it's going to import all the layers from this PDF into AutoCAD as well. I have a lot of other options here. If I wanted to convert this into a symbol, into a block in AutoCAD, I could do that. I'm not going to change anything else here. I'm just going to hit OK. I'm going to be snapped to the bottom left of that, and where I can just click wherever here, and I'll just let it process. So in the bottom right corner, you see it saying it's importing hundreds or thousands of objects. Right? It's evaluating every object that's in that PDF, and it's importing them. So in a way, I'm not actually like bringing the PDF into AutoCAD. I'm just extracting all of the geometry. So if I zoom in here now and I start clicking on things, you can see that there's just tons and tons of polylines and text objects. So it has brought in all of these objects that I can now interact with. And if I look at my layers in AutoCAD, you can see that all those layers were brought in. So now I can turn layers off if I didn't want to see aspects of this geometry. Now, I just wanted to show you this so you can see that you can get all of the geometry, all the lines, everything brought in so that you could interact with them. You could move them, you could delete them, whatever you want to do. This is really overkill for what we need to do to just take points. So I'm not gonna pursue this any further. I just wanted to show you how to do it, and I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to choose that other drawing that came from Photoshop, and I'm going to try opening that one. Let's see, this one is a lot smaller. I'm going to click there, and let's see how this one is different from the one that came from AutoCAD. And it's converting, you can see it's only converting 223 objects inside of the PDF. So there's many, many fewer objects inside of this drawing than were inside of the drawing from AutoCAD. So let's see what we get. Interesting. Still thinking about it a little bit. Still thinking about it. What we're going to see here is that the entire drawing is not one single raster image. It's actually like lots of different raster images that AutoCAD has extracted and brought in separately. So as soon as it's done thinking about it here, it will let me like click on those individual objects. So rather than having those polylines and things, there's going to be a lot more raster images. So if I click on this, I can see these different raster images. There are some polylines. There is some geometry in this file that is vector based, but there's a lot of raster images. So again, this is really not constructive for us. I just wanted to show you what would happen if you tried to import a PDF this way. We're going to use a different method to do this a little bit more effectively. We're going to attach the PDF as an externally referenced file. So what I'm going to do is type xref, which is the command to open the external references palette. So I'm going to type xref, enter. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here right now because of what I just did. It like brought all of those raster images are in here. I'm just going to detach these from this external file references palette because I don't want any of that anymore. So this is how it should appear in a new file. It's basically just blank. And I'm going to click in the top corner here. I'm going to say attach PDF. And I'm going to find my drawing from AutoCAD, and I'm going to hit open. Got a little bit of a simpler dialog here. Again, if there's multiple pages in the PDF, I can choose which page I want. Where the file is stored, whether I want the relative path or the full path. A relative is fine. The scale, insertion point, all of that. I could specify the insertion point, or I could let it just place it at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to hit specify and hit OK. And that's going to let me drop this wherever I want. I'm going to click, and it will bring that in. So if I click on this, it's going to tell me in the properties over here that this is a PDF underlay. And the nice thing about this is over in my properties, I have some settings here that are really useful to kind of control how this looks. So I can change the contrast of this PDF underlay. I could change it to monochrome if I wanted to. I can adjust the colors to like compensate for the background color of the screen if I wanted to. So I have some nice settings there, right? Now, okay, so we got this PDF drawing imported. So what are our next steps here? The next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that this is scaled correctly, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in and find something that I know the size of. So if my drawing has a dimension in it that is known, like this drawing has a bunch of dimensions indicated, then I can use that to see if the whole thing I imported is to the right size or not. If it doesn't have any dimensions, then I have to use some sort of architectural feature or something that I know the size of for sure. So I'm going to use this measurement over here. I'm going to grab my tape measure tool, and I'm going to click. Interesting that that's not snapping to that. Oh, my snaps aren't on. There we go. Okay, so make sure you have your snaps on if you want to snap to the geometry in the PDF. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to just measure the distance down to here. And you can see that it's telling me that it's 1.5 inches right now. So clearly that does not agree with 6'9½". So I need to rescale this image. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to type the command scale, enter. It's going to want a base point first, which is like the point that doesn't move as I change the size. That really doesn't matter for what we're doing. I can just click anywhere. So I'm just going to click somewhere. And now you can see that it's letting me just dynamically rescale it. But what I want to do is I want to use a reference. So if you look down in the command line, it says reference. I'm going to type R for reference and push enter. And now I'm going to tell it a reference length. So I'm going to zoom back in there, and I'm going to click on that distance that I know the true length of. like this. I'm going to get my perpendicular snap there, make sure I'm drawing straight up and down, and I'm going to click OK. And now it's asking what that distance is actually supposed to be. So the distance between those 2 points I just clicked, what is it actually supposed to be? It's supposed to be 6'9" and whoops. I always get the formatting incorrect when I try to type in feet and inches in AutoCAD. So I'm going to try that again. Scale, base point doesn't matter. Reference, click here, 6'9-1/2, quote, enter. Okay, and now I'm going to grab my tape measure again, and I'm going to recheck this. Did I achieve? Yes. So I did scale that now so that the measuring tool actually agrees with the dimension there, which is good. Okay, so we are now scaled correctly. We now need to move this so that wherever we want our 0, 0 to be will agree with the 0, 0 of the coordinate system that is in this file, right? So I'm going to use the move command. I'm going to type M and then enter. I'm going to choose the object that I want to move, which is this PDF underlay. I'm going to zoom in, and I want my 0, 0 to be that plaster line, center line intersection, as we would typically use in a proscenium style theater. I'm going to click there. And now it's asking where I want to move it to. I want to move it to 0, 0, 0, but if I type in 0, 0, 0, you can see that's entering in the 3 boxes in my dynamic input there, just to the right of my cursor. That's the X, Y, Z coordinate. If I type in 0, 0, 0 and I hit enter, it doesn't move. And that's because that was a relative coordinate I just gave it. I told it to move a distance of nothing, nothing, and nothing. So I need to give it an absolute coordinate. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to move. I'm going to choose that point. And I'm going to type hashtag 0, 0, 0. And you can see that there's like a line going over to the origin. I'm going to hit enter. So I told it to move that location to the absolute coordinate of 0, 0, 0. And now I have my center line, plaster line intersection right at the origin of the drawing, which is good. Okay, so now we know that this is scaled correctly. We have 0, 0 where we want. So now we can start taking points. Before I do that, I'm just going to come down and turn off AutoCAD's model space grid here because I don't want to see all that nonsense with all the grid back there. I have my my snaps turned on right now, just all kind of my basic snaps, except for nearest and node are turned on right now. Now, if I wanted to start taking measurements, I could grab my tape measure tool and use that, but I can only measure one coordinate at a time with the tape measure tool. It's not necessarily the most efficient way to do this. I'm going to actually grab the rectangle tool, just my simple 2D rectangle tool, and then I'm going to zoom in to 0, 0, 0. I'm going to click there. And now you can see as I start to drag this rectangle that it's showing me the horizontal and the vertical length of the sides of that rectangle. And if I hover over a particular thing that I'm interested in, like the corner of this wagon, I can see that the horizontal distance is 20 foot and 1/2 inch. I'm on the stage left side of the center line, and my vertical distance is 14 feet upstage of the plaster line. So just by moving this rectangle around now, I can get those distances, right? So that's one way I can do this. Another way you can do this in AutoCAD would be to use what's called the ID command, which is just like identify this point. So I'm going to type ID, enter. And what we'll see happen is that if I hover over a point, it will show the coordinate location in that little tooltip there. So I'm going to go back to this wagon, corner of this wagon, and you can see it shows the same measurement, 20 foot, 1/2. That's the X coordinate, and 14 feet is the Y coordinate. If I go over to the other side of the stage, I should see negative values in the X, right? See how the coordinate just disappeared on me? I can get that to stop happening by turning all of my snaps off. I don't really need my snaps on and I'm just gonna hit escape and end that and type ID again. I don't really need to be snapping perfectly to like corners and stuff to like get these coordinates. And now that my snaps are turned off, it's just gonna maintain that little tooltip there. And that little tooltip we're seeing is called the dynamic input. That is an option down at the bottom here, right? You can turn on and off your dynamic input. So I want that to be on so I can see that little tooltip and get my X and Y coordinates that way. Okay, so that is the basics of bringing the PDF in, scaling it, getting it at 0, 0, and then being able to start, extracting information from it. Before we leave AutoCAD, one thing I want to show you as well, I'm going to go back to the external references, that XREF, and I'm going to go to Attach Image. And I just want to show you, if you had a drawing that was a photo and not a PDF, you can also bring that in a very similar manner. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to ask me where to put it. It's going to let me like scale it. And here I have an actual image. If I click on that, you can see it is a raster image. So that's a photo, just a photo, like a JPEG that I brought in. And then I would do all the same steps to like scale it and center it and stuff. One thing you'll notice about this image is that there aren't really any dimensions in here that we can use to scale this correctly. So I could use an architectural feature in this case. For example, the proscenium width. So like, what is the proscenium width in the festival? We know that should be 40 feet. I can measure it on this other drawing that I already scaled. If I turn my snaps back on for a second. 40 feet, yep. So I can scale this image knowing that information. I can hit scale. Again, base point doesn't matter. R for reference. And then I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to click on one side of the proscenium and I'm going to go over to the other side of the proscenium. If I hold shift, that's going to lock me in a horizontal line, and I click again. And now it's asking what that distance is supposed to be. I'm going to type 40 feet, enter. And now that is scaled accurately. And then I could move it to the 0, 0 if I was going to use this image as my drawing. So that's how to go about this process in AutoCAD. Now we're going to jump over and do the same thing in Vectorworks. So I'm going to go over to Vectorworks. I'm using Vectorworks 2023, the Vectorworks Design Suite. I'm also in the Spotlight workspace because that's what we use for entertainment design. I'm going to go to File, New, just create a blank document. Okay, and then one of the first things I'm going to do, like I did in AutoCAD, is go to File, Document Settings, Units, and I'm going to set up my units. So I'm going to put my rounding style here as fractional, and then my rounding precision. Again, if you don't want any fractions, you can get rid of them completely. I'm going to go to the nearest ½ of an inch, and then I'm going to hit OK. You can always go back and change that later. Now we want to bring that PDF in. I'm going to go to File, Import, Import PDF, and then I'm going to select my PDF that came from AutoCAD. I'm going to hit Open, and again, if it's a PDF that has multiple pages, you can specify which pages that you want. I'm not going to make this a reference, and I'm going to leave these other settings. I'm just going to hit Import. And it's going to think about it for a second. Okay. There we have it. So if I have that selected, you can see in the object info on the right, this is a PDF page. It's on the None class, Design Layer 1. And it's kind of nice. It actually has an option here that I can turn on and off, whether I want to be able to like snap to the geometry in the PDF. So like right now, as I'm hovering over lines, you can see that it is snapping to like the endpoints and things. But if I turned off Snap to Geometry, it would actually turn that off. and I wouldn't be snapping to all those lines. Okay. So that's we got our PDF imported now. Next step, we need to get it scaled correctly. So I'm going to go over to my basic tools and grab my tape measure, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to do that same check. I'm going to compare what this distance is to what the dimension there says it's supposed to be. And you can see in the little L next to my cursor there, it says 6'9½". So it actually was brought in at the correct scale. So we know that that's at the correct scale. Now I'm going to go ahead and just distort the scale of this so that we can see how to change the size in case it doesn't come in at the right size. So I've just made that bigger, and I'm going to grab my tape measure again, and I'm going to zoom back in there. I'm just going to see what this is now. So now it's like 13 foot something. So we know it's the wrong size. So now I need to scale it. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go up to Modify, Scale Objects. I want Symmetric by Distance. And just like in AutoCAD, I need to specify a reference distance. That's this current distance here. I'm going to click the little dimension button to the right of that. And now I zoom in here, and I'm, again, just like in AutoCAD, I'm giving it that reference distance. From here to here is the distance that I want to change to something else. So I click, and then it'll open that window back up again. And then I can type in what I want the new distance to be. So in this case, I want it to be 6'9½", which is actually already entered in that box there. It's almost like it can read my mind. Or maybe it's because I already typed that in previously and it just remembers. So that is the new distance we want to change this to. And then I just hit OK. And it will rescale. I'm going to grab my tape measure again, zoom in, and make sure that it is now the distance that we expect it to be. (6'9½). Okay, so that is now scaled correctly. I'm going to go back to my selection tool. So we're sized correctly. Now we need to place that 0, 0 where we want it to be. One thing that's different in Vectorworks is that you can change the location of the origin in the drawing space. So I'm going to go up to the top left corner, right between where the two rulers meet here, and I'm going to double click on that little origin, and it's going to pull up this user origin menu here, and it says set user origin to the next mouse click. So I can actually move my origin to the center of the drawing instead of like in AutoCAD where I had to move the drawing to the origin. So I'm going to set the origin using that next mouse click. So I'm going to hit OK. And now you see the two crosshairs here. I'm going to go into that center line, plaster line intersection, and I'm going to click. And what you'll see now is that the rulers have renumbered themselves, so that 0 is now at the center line and 0 is now at the plaster line. So we've successfully set 0 to where we want it to be, which is good. If I wanted to, one thing I can do is I can also right click on this and just choose lock, and now this object will be locked here. You can see in the object info it's showing it as locked, so I can't like accidentally move this now. Just kind of a useful thing if you want to make sure you don't move it around by accident. I'm just going to go ahead and unlock it. Okay, so our drawing is imported, it's scaled correctly, and 0 is where we want it to be. Now we can take measurements, right? So we can do this very similarly in AutoCAD. I could use my tape measure tool, but I can also just grab my rectangle tool, my regular 2D basic rectangle tool, and I can come in and find that 0, 0, click there, and now as I draw this rectangle, you'll see that it displays a little bit differently. I'm seeing a little tooltip there that says delta X and delta Y. So if I go to that wagon we were looking at in AutoCAD, you can see that delta X is 20 foot and 1/2 of an inch. That delta Y is 14 feet. Just like in AutoCAD, if I go over to the other side of the center line, I'm, this one actually is giving me negative X values. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we should see negative X values on the stage right side of the center line. So if I come over here, I'm getting that negative 22.1 for the X coordinate, and I'm 20 feet upstage of the plaster line. So that's really handy. Kind of similar to AutoCAD, I can also get coordinates just by getting my selection tool. There isn't like an ID tool that I'm aware of, but if I just grab my selection tool and then I hover over something, down at the bottom of the screen there in the right side, you can see that it's also showing the coordinates of that point just by hovering over the point. So that's another way you can also get those points just by hovering over it with the selection tool, and it will indicate it down in the right there. There may be other ways to get the coordinate information to display, but this is just kind of the quick thing that I've figured out. I think the rectangle is a pretty quick and useful way to see what those two coordinates are. Similar to AutoCAD, I can also go to File, Import, and I can do Import Image File. So again, if you have a drawing that isn't a PDF, that it's a JPEG or a PNG or whatever it is, you can import the image as well, and then work with it in a very similar way. So this is saying import image, and all my settings here. I'm going to hit OK, and then you'll see that I get that image now. And when I have it selected, it's showing this is now a bitmap image inside this file. And I can play with image attributes in Vectorworks. I can kind of control like the color and contrast, I believe. Maybe I can't. Yeah, I have very few options there. Apply image effects. If I say apply image effects, I can do some control, like basic contrast and exposure and things if I wanted to. But otherwise, I interacted with it the same way as that PDF page over here. I can scale it. I can center it or place the origin where I want it to be, just like as if it was a PDF. So just wanted to show you that you can do this with images as well as with PDFs. So I think that's everything you need to know for both AutoCAD and Vectorworks to bring those files in, get them scaled correctly, get them get them on the 0, and then start taking those coordinates. Please, 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 always, 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 before you start taking points and writing those points down, verify the scale of the drawing, double check that with the tape measure that things are the size they're supposed to be, and then double check that 0 is where it is supposed to be, where you think it is. If it's off by a lot, it might be really obvious as soon as you start writing numbers down. But if it's off by kind of just a small amount, you might not notice until you're have taped something out and it just seems like it's a little bit the wrong size or something. So just please, please always verify the scale and the 0 before you start taking those coordinates. So I think that's everything. If you watch this and you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to me. My name's Matt Grenier. My website is mattgrenier.com, mattgrenier.com. Thanks and happy taping.